It's Wednesday, June 1st, 2016. I'm Rym.
I'm Scott.
And this is GeekNights. Tonight, the anime we've been watching, because it's anime day.
Let's do this.
Problem is, I could have watched a lot more anime, but one, I really got into the new Fargo TV show. A little late to the game there. It was really good. And two, I watched a bunch of other anime, but more importantly, three, I've been playing a lot of Overwatch. It's actually pretty good. Like, remember when Team Fortress 2 came out, and we were like, yeah! And then we played it, and that night we were like, eh.
It was more like, I played it for a few weeks.
I played it, but that night I was like, oh, this isn't what I wanted. Okay, whatever. And I played it for a few weeks, and I just stopped. Overwatch is only superficially similar to it. I'm not going to review it now because it's Wednesday day, but it is way closer to Quake 2 Weapons Factory or Team Fortress than Team Fortress 2 ever got, which is interesting that this is the game that made it. But it's also got it's like every MOBA has the same set of characters and the same aesthetic now. I think pretty much every esport game that isn't Video Ball or Rocket League is going to look like this down the road. It's kind of weird. Like, people still confuse this game with, Battleborn or that other game that doesn't look good? That's actually a MOBA, I guess?
I don't know.
Anyway, people seem to be confusing the two, like non-gamers, because they have very similar style, even though they're completely different games. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of that. I guess if I had any more opening bits or anecdotes, actually,
It's warm today.
Something funny happened. A biking story today involving a fixie. But it's a new one. This is something that's never happened to me before.
Okay.
So I'm biking, and I passed this really slow guy in a fixie, and he's with his friend who's on a fixie and also really slow. And then I stopped.
Sure, it was fixies and not one speeds.
They were one of them at least was an actual fixie because I saw him coasting, sticking his legs up. The pedals were still going.
Yep. Okay.
I didn't confirm the other guy. They had brakes, so I'll give him that. But
just the one front brake.
Maybe. I mean, I didn't inspect their bikes that closely. I'm not like that obsessed. But so I'm biking, and I stop at the red light, and they shoal and get in the way of traffic and run the red light and kind of puff past me, and then I pass them every time the light turns green, and eventually, I get to a red light, and there's a bunch of traffic. So even when they catch up to me, they can't just go through the light. They just stand there. And the one guy pulls up next to me and is just staring at my bike. Really staring at it. Not even trying to hide the fact, looking at it so intently. And he keeps doing it for 20 seconds or so. So finally I just turn to him. I'm like, can I help you? What's up? And he's like, where's the battery? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, how are you going so fast? And I got to use the line that I've always wanted to be able to use on one of these kinds of people. But, I'm just biking. I'm not going to stop and yell a retort at someone. I'm just keep going. So I turn to him. I'm like, I have gears. That's how I go fast. If you had gears, you could go fast. And he's like, there's no way. And then the light turned green. I never saw him again. But that was the fact that he's just standing there, staring at my bike. It's one of those, when a stranger does something a little bit weird, and in New York, your sense goes off of, wait a minute, that one's not acting like the rest of the herd. Warning, warning.
I mean, even if you only had one, it's bikes are leg powered. It's he couldn't imagine that there would be someone with better legs than him. It's let me introduce you to professional cyclists.
So, but the thing is, even a professional cyclist.
That's I'm playing basketball against Michael Jordan. I'm like, how did you score so many points? Where's your battery? Performance enhancing drugs? Where are your drugs? How did you do it? There's no other way you could have done it.
But I think it's not the high speed, it's the acceleration. Because remember, even a professional cyclist, if you're sitting at a dead stop on an uphill slope, that's a not insignificant slope, and someone who is way less athletic than you is starting at the exact same spot, but they have a real bike with gears, they will accelerate way faster than you. You're going to pass them eventually because you have legs the size of my torso, but they're going to accelerate faster than you. There is no way around that unless you snap your chain.
Sure.
It was just an interesting moment because he was so fixated on it. Fixated, fixie. All right, there we go. That wasn't intentional.
All right.
So, yeah. That's what happened to me today. Got any news related to anime or comics or manga?
I do have news. So, people always be complaining about PAX and the way it sells tickets, and Robert Koo did that interview where he pretty much gave the lowdown, which is the exact same lowdown we always gave.
Yep. It's like, kids, if you've been around the block, like, I know you going to conventions.
This is how it do.
It's like, never tried to buy tickets to a hockey game. Never tried to get like tickets to a popular concert. That shit is way harder than even these conventions you guys are so upset about.
Right. Anyway, so New York Comic Con, many conventions have tried different solutions, lotteries and things, and they all had their problems. New York Comic Con is trying something new this year, and interestingly enough, it has some positive and some negative aspects.
It's actually not. It's not the worst idea.
It's not just awful. But I think overall it's still negatives.
I will admit, I bristled at it just instinctively before I actually tried to figure it out.
I think it's still worth a bristle, but it's not 100% bad. It's like 50% bad.
I bristle at almost anything, even like anything
so
like
anyway,
this.
Here's what they're doing. They're doing fan verification. Here's how this works. First, you got to go to their website and make a profile. Why do you do this? So that they can collect all your personal information.
Hooray!
Also, I just learned that that Reed. Did you know who owns Reed?
I actually don't.
Reed is owned by an evil company.
Which one?
Elsevier.
Oh! I know all about them.
Yeah, the people who refuse to open up their medical and scientific journals for freeness, right?
I've had recruiters from them. I figured out it was from them.
The people who you could say murdered Aaron Schwartz indirectly.
I know all about that company.
All right, so anyway, they like to collect, they own LexisNexis and whatnot. They own, they want to collect your information and put it in a database. So that's the worst part of this. So anyone who wants New York Comic Con tickets to make a profile on their website so they can collect your personal information for their business purposes, right? So then what they do is they're going to let you know if you have a profile that's been verified. They're going to let you know when tickets are going to go on sale, which is cool. All right, because now no scalpers are going to have profiles, right? So it's no big deal. Then all the ticket types will go on sale at the same time. Also good.
Yeah.
They're not going to sell VIP tickets anymore. Also good.
That's great.
Great. Okay.
VIP tickets were one of the main problems I had with the New York Comic Con.
Right. They're only going to sell tickets on their website and not like in comic book stores like they used to, which good and bad-ish, maybe. Whatever. It was kind of nice to be able to go to a comic store and get a ticket.
Well, yeah, except that didn't work anymore because all that meant was you either stand in line outside of a comic book store that has like 10 tickets.
The thing is, that's the thing is the comic book stores had a lot more than 10 tickets, like Midtown, and there were so many of them in the city that got tickets that you could actually pretty easily get them there, and people didn't know about this a lot.
Well, that was it.
You could if you like needed a ticket late. It's like I remember in past years, comic book stores in the city were like the only places that still had them, and people just didn't know to go there and get them. Which is, I guess, also why it's fine to just take that away from them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then they're going to be sold first come, first serve basis.
So normal.
Normal. And basically what happens is on the day they go on sale, you can log in and buy one ticket per person. So, and for a certain number of friends. So let's say me, Rym, and Emily all want to go.
We each have to make a profile.
We each have to make a profile, if right? And then one of us can buy 3 tickets. And if it's I could buy 3 Fridays, 3 Saturdays, and 3 Sundays because we have 3 profiles. Even though I'm one person and I'm paying for all of them, we need to have a profile for each individual human being going to the con. And then I could buy the 3 tickets for the 3 profiles like that. So this should prevent scalping because a scalper wants to buy a lot of tickets is going to have to make a lot of profiles, and they're not going to let you make that many. But also, they're just collecting information on everyone who's going. But also, I think the biggest problem with this, besides the collecting your information so blatantly, is they're selling a lot of tickets to this thing. It's huge. But only internet people will know to do this, right? It's like
that's what I was about to get to. So
you're gonna a lot of people who go to New York Comic Con are not fans.
Guys, there are people who want to go to PAX who show up at PAX and don't understand that they can't buy a ticket to it because
I think that they're gonna have a problem selling out because people won't know to make profiles to buy a ticket. And
I think enough
go
people
through the
know
rigmarole
to where it'll still sell out, and a bunch of other people who wouldn't have gotten them anyway, the same people who normally don't get them because they don't try to log on Comic-Con and buy them immediately are now going to think that they didn't get them because they didn't fill out this form or whatever. The same people won't get badges. They'll be mad for a different reason.
I don't know. I think that you're going to see also, the only a harder core audience of people who know how to internet and know how to check on these things so far in advance.
Which actually could be bad for New York Comic Con's business because New York Comic Con seems to thrive on getting like kind of casual fans who are just going for one day to walk around and buy stuff. Like that seems to be.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the kind of people they want there.
You're going to get less of the people that they actually want, but they're going to get more information about the people who are there.
Yeah.
And maybe cater to them more. So I don't know. This is still, I guess, props for trying something and creative idea. But I think that you should still just do it the PAX way. I can't see this being any more successful than that.
So there might...
Other than the money they make from collecting all the information, maybe helps them more. I don't know.
So the only people who do not need profiles are kids under 5 just get in free anyway.
Obviously.
Kids aged between 6 and 12, there's 2 kinds of badges they can get. They have to get an adult badge unless they go on Sunday, then they get a slightly cheaper kids badge. Kids aged 6 to 12 do not need a profile because Child Online Protection Act, you're not allowed to collect that information about those kids.
Correct.
So I'm reading this now. If you want to buy a badge for a kid aged 6 to 12, you'll still have to get the adult badge for like Saturday. And you just have to note that you're purchasing one or more of your tickets for a kid age 6 to 12, and then you assign them the ticket without them having a profile. But supposedly it is just an adult ticket. But, quote, any New York Comic Con tickets assigned to kids will only be valid for kids age 12 at the time of New York Comic Con. This will be noted on their badge RFID. And remember, New York Comic Con's the only reason this all works because they're doing that bullshit. You have to scan your badge to enter and exit the convention.
Beep. And they're going to have your personal information associated with your badge.
Yeah, and vendors, it's going to be like those bullshit vendor conferences where every vendor is like, hey, you want the free thing? Tap your badge, and then we're going to spam you for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth noting.
I'm telling you, overall, it's a negative, but there is some interesting ideas here, right? I think you could take part of these ideas.
Yeah, no tap in, no badge in ever at a PAX.
You could do the PAX profiles, but they could just be cool gamer profiles, not collecting your info, right?
Actually, that would be a good idea. Make your PAX profile, and then actually, Penny Arcade is one of the few groups that would have the clout to go to game companies like Blizzard and say, hey, integrate this with your system and Steam and everything.
Yeah, you could do some okay stuff with that.
I'm saying that's how Robert could take that and make it like a pretty legit thing.
Do it nicely and also, help, integrate it with badge getting to make it a little bit, better, something like, I don't know.
Yeah. But again, scalpers are not the problem. Demand is the problem.
Correct.
And demand cannot be addressed. Now, it's interesting because demand was addressed for us. Remember, we stopped going to the New York Comic Con many years ago. I had free badges.
It's right fucking there.
Like, I used to get the professional badge every year, and half the time I'd get the badge and literally not go because there's nothing to do or see there.
It's a giant comic book store. What do you need to go there for?
I mean, now the panels are all just like paid pro panels or whatever, but I remember a time when I went to the actual New York Comic Con and I went to where the panels were and I walked around with my camera videoing all these panel rooms with scheduled panels and panelists, but literally no one was in these panels watching them. It was people sitting in the front of the room, empty room, doing nothing. It was just terrifying to behold. But yeah, I guess if you want to go to New York Comic Con, make sure you pay attention to this. Because, I mean, even small dumpy cons, it's like no one knows how to internet. Like, there were people at PAX, right? PAX East, the one that just happened, who knew that Markiplier was a guest somehow. They knew that he was in a particular theater doing something, that he was in the Albatross Theater at some point during the convention. And they showed up at the convention with a PAX badge, which, remember, is very hard to get at PAX East. So somehow, their whole family, they got PAX badges. They show up at PAX. There's a guest they want to see. They know he's at the con. They know what room his panel was in. They didn't know his panel was on Friday, and he didn't have any panels on Saturday. So those are the kinds of people who now have to navigate this system for the New York Comic Con. Mm-hmm. Those are the kinds of people who will fly to New York and then not have a badge. Mm. And then buy one from all the friendly scalpers who I guarantee are still going to be out on the street.
Yes.
So in other news, the internet was going crazy about this, and I kind of don't want to talk about it so much as a sort of, there's an underlying problem way deeper than the thing that I'm about to talk about. So I'm sure you saw that Captain America is apparently a Nazi, which honestly, in terms of comic books, had you told me that, I were like years ago, 20 years ago, I would have just assumed, all right, sure, they'll undo it at some point. He's probably dead at the end of that series or whatever, because it's comic books. You can't spoil comic books.
Well, also, I think it's kind of weird that everyone says he's a Nazi, but it's like, I think the truth is that he's like in Hydra, which is a terrorist organization, which isn't Nazis.
It is canonical through several avenues of Captain America comics that Hydra was actually the Nazis, or that the Nazis were propped up by Hydra as part of a scheme.
I thought the Hydra was anti-Nazi, but this shows you how many, how comic books are so fucked up. There's no one right answer to anything.
Yeah. Now, but I can't.
The same way that Russians or commies were anti-Nazi.
It's hard for me to be offended by this, just because of the fact that Captain America is an ancient character that they're still making comics about for some reason. And I mean, how many times did they kill Superman or Batman or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I usually judge.
Like, clearly he's brainwashed, or it's an alternate reality, or whatever nonsense is going to happen, because that's how this goes.
I usually judge underwear pervert heroes, their quality, based on how many of the books focusing on them are worth reading. And they're very, right? And it's like, how many Captain America comic books are like top tier comic books?
I can only name a handful of top tier underwear pervert comics, and most of them are one-offs.
Right. Captain America, it's like, there aren't a lot of great Captain America books. It's like,
he punched Hitler that one time.
There's some Avengers stories, right, that are like, pretty great, that are like up there.
Yeah, but Cap's just part of it.
It's not like they focus on him a whole lot. He's just sort of like, he's just there, and he's usually just, hitting things with his mighty shield and whatnot. He's not really, I mean, like, his story overall, like, oh, he was frozen in the ice, and, it's like, that's an okay story. It's okay. But, like, the actual comic books containing that story, you don't need to read those. They're not particularly amazing comic books of any kind. Right? You can skip it.
So the good thing that came out of this is the memes of, like, someone just drew a really great Steven Universe standing there, and he's like, "Hail, homeworld." The memes around this are great. But the underlying issue is just that a lot of people were really mad about this, and for the reason being, they're invested in this character, and they're mad and deeply, like, they feel deeply about something that happened to a fictional character, to the point that they will send death threats, or that they somehow feel like, because they're a big fan of a property, of someone else's property, that they somehow are entitled to have, like, input into how that property is treated.
This has been true for as long as comic books have been printed. This is what's news here.
I'm just not. That's not news.
This is the news
That's
section.
the underlying issue. And what's interesting is that finally, this time, multiple essays have been written, and the sort of pop nerd culture is actually talking about that issue as a result of this. And
that's not new either.
Yeah, it is. People haven't really talked about it that much.
Talking about it for a long time.
Outside of some circles that we're in, that is not a common nerd theme. Mostly the nerd theme is, I am entitled to this character or this actor that I like who shouldn't be dating someone in the real world.
I mean, I was reading, like, quote, think pieces, long ago. Like,
hot takes?
Yeah, hot takes in like the 90s that were like, hey, people aren't going to have wars about religion anymore. They're going to be having wars about, like, bands, like which band people are following and shit like that. And I think somebody referenced one of those things in one of these newer ones. And I'm like, oh, I remember reading that.
But I guess it's real hard for me to feel anything about this character because Captain America is so old, and comic books are notorious for doing and undoing things so often that you could tell me that, oh yeah, it turns out that literally every one of the Avengers is literally a Nazi, and I would say, well, that had to happen at some point.
Right. I think the only part of it that I can sort of sympathize with the upset people, right, is that, like, let's say you're the kind of person who is like got the collecting part, right, in your brain. You got to buy them all, like Pokemon, right? Yep. And every month, no matter what, you buy Captain America, like clockwork, right? And that's your thing. Is like you read it. Maybe, you buy Spider-Man every month. You just keep getting Spider-Man no matter what.
That's the monomaniacal fan whose identity is tied up in the thing they collect.
And every month you read this thing and you really like reading it, right? But unlike, say, something like One Piece, where you read it every month and it's always One Piece with the same creators in general, and the same story going on, this Spider-Man like changes. You got a new writer, you got a new story, you got a new character in there, and like you were been buying it all this time because you liked it, and now it changes, and now you don't like it anymore, and you're like, no, this thing that I was enjoying every month like a routine, like when they changed the flavor of my fucking orange juice, right?
Or like you're into My Little Pony because of the comic, and then Frank Miller takes over.
Right, I mean, like, I remember, I bought Spider-Man 2099 when I was a kid every month, right? That was my book. It's still a great book, by the way. You should read. If you can get the old Spider-Man 2099, it's, like, super cyberpunk and amazing. But there was one issue where, like, suddenly it was following this plot, and then suddenly this one random issue, which I now realized today was, like, a filler issue because the real artists and writers couldn't get it in on time, right? Had, like, really bad art and a really weird story, and had nothing to do. It was like a side story that had nothing to do with the plot. It was just random nothing. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And I wrote in a letter because they always had those letters columns. And there was some other letter in the back of the next issue that got back to the main story, the main artist, and the main writer again. It looked a lot like my letter, only all the negatives are changed to positives. I don't know what was up with that. But yeah.
See, at least when you were in the Strong Bad emails, it was pretty much your email.
Mostly, yeah. At least but it didn't. I didn't know if it was mine because it,
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, that's the only thing I can sympathize with. Like, if you're into this thing, it's like your routine, and someone changes it on you.
Yep. But at the same time, you can't ever be so monomaniacal about fictional media that a change to that media is actually physically devastating or mentally devastating to your well-being as a person.
Dude, you want to have some fun? Go to all the websites of like all the metal magazines, right? And basically all the metal magazines have been writing like constant articles about like baby metal like every day.
Dude, I saw a bunch of that. I remember Motorhead was like, what the fuck have you done? These girls are out there making metal.
Right. All of the comment sections on those articles, because basically tons of people are reading these articles because they're all fans. They're bringing the magazines and stuff tons of money.
Yep.
And tons of eyeballs. But all the comment sections are like the most like prototypical internet flame wars.
Well, look, it came full circle.
Of pedants and all of it's the greatest.
It came full circle with, the Ghostbusters, the MRAs, because, there's the all-female Ghostbusters.
Same thing.
Dan Aykroyd tweeted the other day, and he was like, this movie's great. Like, this might be better than the originals.
Even the drunk old guy likes it.
Yeah. But when the original cast is like, this movie might be funnier than what we made before, and the first response to that message was some MRI guy being like, I guess you're shitting all over the originals. What the fuck, man? Ruining my... It's like, really, dude? That's literally like... that is literally the worst possible way to make your point, to attack Dan Aykroyd about Ghostbusters. I guess attacking Bill Murray about it is like the only way you could go worse. Anyway, things of the day. So, Scott, I'm curious. Do you know how George Washington died?
I thought I did, but I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, so because the other night I was talking to Emily and I was like, you know how George Washington died, right? And she's like, yeah, he got sick and like the doctors drained his blood and that killed him. And
I never heard that.
That's apparently pretty common knowledge. You just thought he died of old age.
Yeah.
No,
okay.
He died. Well, so.
Bad doctoring?
So the story that most people seem to know, other than you, is that, bloodletting was terrible practice because doctors sucked and he got sick.
I thought the bloodletting ended way before the times of George Washington.
So you should watch this video. It's a SciShow video, but Hank Green says it best. If you're ever going to time travel, don't go to any time period before about 1940 because there wasn't medicine before then.
Well, I know that medicine was shitty until,
1940.
I thought even medicine, I know that medicine in 1940 was way better, but I figured we stopped bloodletting way before.
Oh. So the high-level story that most people know is, doctors drained his blood because, doctors sucked back then, and then that caused him to die, and they kind of leave it at that. The specifics of what happened, basically, between 4 and 6 doctors fucking murdered him when he basically had, at worst, the flu.
Well, the flu would fucking kill you in 1700s
He probably
anyway.
would have survived what was going on.
He was a tough motherfucker.
The worst disease he could have had...
Even the non-fictional George Washington was a tough motherfucker, right?
He might have had this particular fast onset swelling of something in your throat, but he more likely had a severe cold or a flu. probably would have been okay. He got it because he was such a tough motherfucker that he was working out in the snow all day, and then he was soaking wet. He came inside, and he didn't want to delay dinner, so he refused to change into dry clothes. And then the next day, he had a sore throat, and instead of staying in bed, he went outside and did the same thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah, George Washington.
People, like, there's funny jokes like, oh, man,
George Washington was probably the first known person for whom I'm too old for this shit and I'm unwilling to deal with your shit are probably like he made those come into being in American culture.
Like the real George Washington, right? He was like 6 feet tall plus and buff. Like he could fuck you up. He was not a tiny person, right? We're talking about I'm talking about the real George Washington.
Not the 40-foot radiation one.
Right, not that one. That's just an exaggeration, right? The real one was
I heard the dude had
a guy you were not
40 goddamn dicks.
You were not going to fight with him. Right? It's like you could take on a lot of the other guys, like Jefferson, just like an old man. You could knock him the fuck out. Right? But you weren't going to mess with Washington, right?
So here's what really happened to George Washington. He had this cold, basically. Doctors, of course, they did bloodletting right away.
Oh.
They fed him poison.
All right.
Which they made him vomit a whole bunch, which dehydrated him. Mm-hmm. They burned his mouth and throat with acid.
Good job.
Because apparently that was a expected and common treatment for a sore throat is to fucking put acid in your throat and burn you severely. Mm. And they were doing all this to try to balance his humors. So they drew his blood. They drew such an amount of his blood that it is shocking he didn't die then and there.
Well, I mean, first of all, so badass, he's not going to die even if you take half his blood. And two, his heart is probably pumping so much blood, they started letting it, and he's like,
so they drained his blood, and then they decide that he's not getting better fast enough because they got his humors too far in one direction. So they burn his fucking throat with acid, and then they decide that's not enough, so they make him vomit with poison. Then they burn his throat again. They draw his blood again. I think by the third time they drew his blood, and at this point they've taken like 20% of all his blood, he started to get better for a period of maybe a few hours, and then he died. Mm. So it's not just that doctors did bloodletting and then he died. It was a bunch of doctors poisoned him and bled him to death because he had a cold.
Well, you know what this proves? This proves who would win in a fight. George Washington.
And anyone?
And Rasputin. Rasputin would win because Rasputin got fucked up way more.
And he laid there bleeding, but still alive.
Oh, yeah. Rasputin took way more than that. If they did that shit to Rasputin, he'd be like,
Yep. And now, even though the end of
Rasputin was also a giant motherfucker.
The end of Rasputin, like the final end, was exaggerated, almost definitely, but dude survived with probably a sucking lung wound and a chest wound.
Wait, didn't he get shot with a gun?
From the vague story I remember is they poisoned him and he just wouldn't die from the poison. So eventually the dude shot him a couple times and then they just left the room, just like waiting.
Didn't they eventually have to
die.
dump him in the river to kill him?
Yeah, well, he was probably actually dead by the time they dumped him in the river.
Oh, okay.
Probably. But the story is that he was still alive even then.
Well, we learned that he can take Washington.
Yeah.
At least at that age, right? The age at which they died. Each one, right? Whatever.
You'd have to do a controlled study. You got to get a whole bunch of Washingtons and a whole bunch of Rasputins, and then also poison half of them.
The other thing is that Rasputin came way later, right? So
Rasputin still right at the end of the era of the doctors would have killed him if they tried to save him.
I'm just saying, he came way later than Washington.
Yeah, but like Hank Green said, 1940 is your baseline for pre and post medicine.
Rasputin was dead in 1940. Already dead.
So you got a thing of the day for me?
I do. So there's this dude, he's, I guess, called the Samurai Guitarist, and he's playing one of the great songs of all time, Here Comes the Sun by Los Beatles.
Real good song.
Good song. And he starts playing the song at 5:24 a.m. You can see because in the video of him playing the song, there's a clock in the bottom left corner. And he finishes playing the song at around, 5:50 something. So it takes him a half hour to play this, few minute song. So he basically plays it real slow like, and the song goes doo 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 doo. So he's like doo doo.
All right.
Even slower than that, right? Because it takes him 30 minutes to play the song once on the guitar.
Yep.
And he videos himself playing the song over the course of 30 minutes, right? With a clock in the corner. And then what he'd do be the work of genius. Obviously, he was doing this between 5:24 and 5:50 because that's the sun was coming up. So it's the sun comes up as he's playing, right? Makes sense. He makes a little time lapse of the video.
Ooh.
So it sounds like he's playing normal.
And the sun's just coming up.
And the sun's coming up. So he made an A+ internet video that this is one of those things where it's like, I could have done that if I would have thought to do it, but you didn't, and that's why the Samurai Guitarist is better than you. So watch his video. He deserves your view.
In the meta moment, the book club book will be Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood, because I'm finally almost done with the Wheel of Time. I just finished the 13th book, and I know what's in that tower now.
Tell me what's in there.
No, read the books.
No.
I also
Just tell me.
I don't know fully what Luz Theron fucked up, but I know mostly what he fucked up. And I know where
Luz Theron, as far as I know from reading only books 4, was the man. That's my
I know
guy.
how the taint worked. Like, I know that biz now.
It's between your legs.
Yeah. Well, it's also in your brain with spikes.
Okay.
I know the deal with a lot of things.
Tell me all the things.
The problem is, I wasn't going to read all the Wheel of Time. I got to a point around book 7 where I was
that was my book club pick, by the way.
Yeah, I'm going to read. Well, it's interesting because now that I've read it all, going back to the Prince of Nothing, I see where he drew tropes there as well. Like, you can't just
Fantasy books have similar tropes, you don't say.
Yeah, but by focusing on the Tolkien tropes that are lifted, we've overlooked other tropes that didn't come from Tolkien-esque history of fantasy.
Okay.
But anyway, I'm going to finish the 14th book because I had to, and we're going to do a special podcast, me and Keel White at PAX Prime, about the entire
It's going to be
Wheel
great
of
if this
Time.
podcast doesn't happen. You hyped it up so much.
It's going to happen because he was into it. Believe me, when I tweet about the Wheel of Time, there are like 2 people who respond to those tweets. And 90% of the time, it's some rando and Keel.
Right.
He is into Wheel of Time. In fact, after I said that Prince of Nothing is the Wheel of Time times... what did I say? I said something, but basically I was like, Prince of Nothing is the real mode version of Wheel of Time.
I mean, every fantasy book is every other fantasy book.
Yeah, but I think he's going to read the Prince of Nothing now. I think that was the.
You didn't read it already?
No, a lot of people haven't read the Prince of Nothing because you start that stuff and it is dense. It is brutal. It makes the Game of Thrones look like a children's story.
Game of Thrones is a children's story. So is Wheel of Time.
Kineticon's coming up. We'll be doing a bunch of shows there. We're also rapidly scheduling the panels. I cannot tell you when the panel schedule will appear on the website. I have no control over that. But I have scheduled about 3/4 of the convention, and someone else is emailing people who have panels scheduled. If you didn't get an email yet, it doesn't mean I didn't schedule you yet. It just means there's a lot of follow-up to do because there's a lot of manual processes this year for reasons I have no control over. So stay tuned. Otherwise, PAX Prime is coming up. We'll be there. PAX Dev, I'll be there at least. And, yeah. Any other stuff? Patreon's going. Still selling T-shirts.
I got a bunch of video equipment. I'm going to make a whole bunch of videos that are free on YouTube soon. Streaming and also not streaming.
The third game, we've been doing our Civ series. The problem is I can't upload videos from a game until the game's over because I can't reveal information to Scott and vice versa. But the third series... pretty interesting shit's going down. I actually can't wait to see what Scott saw over the course of this game.
I saw your pikeman to the north of me.
Oh, yeah, that's actually... I don't have a pikeman.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
I'm pretty sure it's a pikeman.
No, it's a swordman.
I guess he's standing next to the pike.
The city-state has a pikeman.
Oh, is that who that belongs to?
Yeah, that's not the city-state I'm allied with either. So all the city-states that declared war on you are actually on the other side of me and literally can't interact with you. So I like the 2 that are next to you that I want to declare war on you have quests that are literally impossible.
Yep.
One of them is like, give me some marble, and the only marble on the map is like next to your capital.
Yeah, it's my marble, and they're not asking for it.
Yeah, they're asking for it from me, and I can't give it to them.
Yeah, I would give them the marble, no problem.
Yeah, they're like, we need got some marble, Rym? Marble?
Yeah, I built my game around that marble, and my plan went according to plan, but basically I learned that in a duel, military is all that matters and nothing else really does.
Thing is, I can't take Scott out. I can't do
Nope, I got my Babylonian walls. Come and bring it.
Not only that, but you're one era ahead of me science-wise, and one of the things that you might not know is that city defense is heavily influenced by what era you reached.
Right, but I think if you brought your whole military to bear, I can't exert my force on anything right now, not even barbarians, because I don't have enough force.
God, there are so many goddamn barbarians.
And I don't have enough money to get more. I could build more military easily. I just don't have enough money to pay for it.
Hey, Scott, you need some money? I'll give you money for your marble.
No, not for the marble. So it's like, if I could just get some fucking money, I would be actually like really good, but there's nowhere I can send a caravan safely. I can't caravan.
There's one place you could, but not for long.
Yeah, I can't caravan, basically.
I only have one caravan, and I only made that caravan because the city-state asked for it.
This is why China was so good when I played it, because you get 2 money from your library, and I'm actually at like -2 money, like exactly. Like it's like, if I just was China, I would be so good right now.
Well, even worse, in the big Civ game, the worst fucking thing happened to me. I might declare war on Chris and Egypt because of it.
Right.
So there's a bunch of wonders. You know the wonders like no one builds, like Chichen Itza or whatever, just hanging out.
That's a good one.
It is a good one, but no one built it. There's a bunch of wonders no one built. I had a great engineer, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to, in one turn, build Chichen Itza.
He built it under you.
He literally had been working on it for a while and finished it the turn I used my great engineer.
If it's that early in the game, why don't you use your great engineer to make the factory?
It's not. The factory is not available yet.
The manufactory.
The manufacturer?
The thing he builds on the terrain.
So I amortize that over the hammers in terms of how long I think the game will go. Probably not worth it.
If it's early in the game, I would build that.
I will do that with the science one or the money one, but very rarely will I build the manufactory. Because instead, I'll just mine all the hills I got around. But anyway, I digress.
All right.
So Scott told me to watch a bunch of anime, and I told him to watch a bunch of anime, and neither one of us watched the anime that the other one watched, except I think we both watched Sakamoto.
Oh, okay. But why didn't you watch any things I told you to watch?
Why didn't you watch? Jigen Daisuke is only 50 minutes long.
That's been around for a long time.
Yeah, and it's going to not be on Hulu, like, tomorrow.
But there's plenty of ways to watch it without Hulu. So
Name one.
BitTorrent.
He's gonna pirate. It's getting harder unless you really know where to go. I mean, I could pirate it, obviously, but most people probably couldn't without going.
It's not my problem.
More and more people I see are pirating stuff by going to those shady.
Also, as many animes, people are like panicking because all the anime are removed from Hulu.
It's all like Saber Marionette J.
I have a bunch of anime in my queue on Hulu, and I only got an email from Hulu saying that one of them was being removed, which is the 2nd season of Mushishi, which is like, all right.
Scott, you don't understand. It is Lupin's season because we went back and finished Fujiko Mine.
I like me a Lupin, but I'm not in Lupin mood right now. So,
but this is a new Lupin. This blue-shirted Lupin that we're seeing in Fujiko Mine and now in Jigen Daisuke it's a way to do Lupin that I think is making Lupin's gonna be big again, like real big.
I mean, it's probably good, but I don't need to watch it right now. It's not going anywhere.
But it's so good. It's just watch it. We could do a whole show on it.
What's my hurry?
It's a whole Wednesday show.
We could have done many Wednesday shows if you would have watched like the 4 anime that I'm watching.
You watched way more minutes of anime than I did, and we could have done a whole show just on that 51 minutes of anime.
Yeah, well, you told me to watch it way too late. I told you to watch this shit way long ago.
Yeah, the problem is I'm playing Overwatch and watching Fargo.
We're watching good stuff we can't do shows.
Fargo's so we can do a show on Fargo if you watch it. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
It's Coen Brothers. It's not like a spin-off. It's Coen Brothers made more stories like Fargo, and they made it as a serial. It's great.
Don't care.
All right. Guess you don't like things. All right, so what's one of these animes I should have watched that I didn't?
Well,
other than Sakamoto, because, yeah,
the first one you got to watch is Space Patrol Luluco. That is the show, right? So Trigger basically is sort of working on 2-ish shows this season, right? Space Patrol Luluco and Kiznaiver. And basically, imagine Kill La Kill, the center of all the Trigger universe, right? And now split it into 2 parts. The zany part, which is the reason you like Trigger.
Yep.
And the normal anime part. And the normal anime part became Kiznaiver. And Space Patrol Luluco is like, it's like Inferno Cop distilled.
No.
Inferno Cop's even in it.
But Inferno Cop is already vodka. It's already distilled. So what's this? Just
fucking
Everclear?
This is fucking moonshine, you know? All right. So
it's just crystal meth dissolved in ether.
So the story, Space Patrol Luluco isn't even a full TV series. It's short episodes like fucking Damakadobutsu, where the opener and the closer is longer than the show.
It's interesting because if I look at my Twitter feed, the Kisniver is getting like 80% of all the anime love I'm seeing.
I watched one episode. I don't need to watch anymore. Anyway.
My Twitter feed loves it.
All right, but anyway. The Space Patrol Luluco, right? So the story is there's a crazy town, which is a lot like sort of like the Men in Black alien town, where it's like just all kinds of crossroads of the galaxy kind of place, right?
Yep.
And it's crazy. And there's a girl who lives there, and she's normal, and she wants things to be normal, but she lives in a crazy town. And it's crazy. So her dad is in the Space Patrol, and he's like the awesomest Space Patrol dude. He's pretty much Dad from Kill la Kill, but he's in the Space Patrol, and he's like the hero of the Space Patrol. The chief of the Space Patrol is Inferno Cop. Anyway.
Oh, it is just Inferno Cop, but he's wearing those sunglasses.
Yes, it's Inferno Cop. Anyway, and the main girl is basically, what's her name? From Kill la Kill.
You forgot the names of every single character in Kill la Kill, didn't you?
Yes.
Every character?
Yes. Yes, all of them. Anyway. Is it Maho or whatever? Is that her name? The crazy one.
Yep.
Anyway, it's basically her. And basically Dad gets fucked up through like his body gets frozen and is only...
Like Han Solo style?
In ice, but yeah, his brain is like the slice of his brain is the only thing left or whatever. And so this girl joins the Space Patrol and has to deal with Space Patrol nonsense. And he gets crazy, go nuts, and they go to Kill la Kill planet, and they go to they go to Little Witch Academia planet. It just goes. The show is out of control zaniness that you need in your anime life, and it's short episodes. You can watch the whole thing, right? And all the episodes that are out so far. And it's funny because like you watch 3 episodes, and like the 4th episode will be like season 2, episode 1. It's like it's seasons, but there's only been like 7 or 8 episodes so far. But it's already the 3rd season just ended.
I guess I just squeeze it in then because it's there's very low barrier to entry to watch a show like that. Like Inferno Cop, like once you turn it on, you're like, oh okay.
Yeah, you can watch this whole thing like by the time I leave here, right?
Because Sakamoto's kind of like that. It kind of just keeps going. Just like, well, Sakamoto shit's
happening.
So
Sakamoto I watched because the trailer was so epic, right? And Sakamoto, while good, is not what
You don't get any more out of it by watching it than by just reading the manga.
Well, okay, so the manga I think is even worse than the anime. So Sakamoto gives me that feel that I get from like Azumanga Daioh, right? With the way the school feels.
Yep.
There's a cast of characters in the school and the sort of the pacing and the way it's edited. But also... sort of like Cromartie, but less crazy than Cromartie, but still Cromartie because you got thuggish bully kid, kind of action going on.
Well, it's like Cromartie, but there's only one. Like there aren't like there's like in Cromartie, everyone except the main guy has some crazy thing going on. Mm-hmm. In this, it's pretty much just Sakamoto.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like everyone else is normal-ish.
Mm-hmm. It has a little bit of the zaniness of like the Nichijou kind of action, right? But anyway. So Sakamoto, it is what it says it was about, right? It's about this kid who's like, super good at everything, but he's also kind of weird. Like I'm thinking there's like some plot twist. Like
he's an alien. He's got to be.
Like he's an alien or he's a bird because he's always hanging out with birds and stuff.
He's an avian bird alien.
He's like an alien to investigate high schools. There's something going on there that's kind of weird and sort of offsetting. He's not just like this hero that you root for. He's just sort of like this strange character who just coincidentally is badass at everything somehow. It's like, what's up with that? And it's, so the feel that you get, the vibe that comes from it isn't exactly the vibe that I got from the trailer. Right?
Yeah. You're expecting more like Initial D style, like he just wins all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with it.
Right. And then in the manga, the thing with the manga is basically the same exact material, and you can actually digest it much faster if you read the manga, but the manga, it's like it's really compressed compared to the anime.
Which I kind of like, because the anime just feels sort of drawn out.
No, I kind of like that it's drawn out, because then you can actually get the feel of the whole situation. When you compress it, it's like the timing of the jokes are just off, and they're not funny at all.
You know what it might be? I actually read a bunch of the manga before I went back and watched the anime. I feel like You got to pick one of the two.
I did the reverse.
Yeah,
so
that's it. You got whichever one you do. If you do the manga or the anime, the other one is worthless to you.
Maybe, but yeah, I prefer the anime. I'm not gonna buy any more of the manga, and I'll just keep watching it. But it's not. It's worth watching, but it's not like must watch. You could just, if you haven't seen, say, Azumanga Daioh or Cromartie, you should go there first.
So the anime that I watched, and Emily watched it with me, and we watched the entire thing.
How many episodes is it?
8.
Oh.
Or no, 8 volumes, 12 episodes of anime. So
that's not bad.
Half season.
Okay.
You could burn through it, actually, because it just moves quickly. So we actually reviewed it fully on the Patreon, but basically, it's called Erased. And
isn't that an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie?
That's Eraser you're thinking of.
What's the difference?
A lot. This doesn't have supersonic bullets in quotes. Was that Eraser? I think Eraser had these supersonic bullets, like night arrows. But this thing ended in March. Like, it's a recent anime, and it's all just out. But the story is basically there's a kid, and he has his normal life. He's kind of a loser. Like, he's our age, he's a loser. Not like a loser, like he sucks, but like he's got kind of a dead-end job, and he's just living his life, and he's kind of an artist, like a failed manga artist or whatever. But he has this superpower. No one else seems to have a superpower, whereas sometimes he'll just see a butterfly go by, and then suddenly, deja vu, he goes back in time like a couple minutes, and something's wrong. Like, that was a moment where something that was going to go bad could be fixed. So, like, he's riding his little scooter, and then suddenly he sees the butterflies, and he backs up. So he's like, oh, shit. So now he's paying attention, like, what's weird? What's out of place? And then he notices that the truck that was next to him, the driver, is literally just, like, passed out. And the truck's just, like, careening down the road, which he didn't notice before. So that's, like, the setup. And then some crazy Phoenix Wright shit goes down, and he goes back in time after being reminded about a bunch of murders that happened when he was a kid. And he goes back in time all the way to when he was in grade school. But
he still has his adult mind.
He has all his adult memories, all his adult mind, and he's back in time, and he has the, like, you know, think about how fuzzy your memories are of, like, 3rd or 4th or 5th grade.
Bad.
Yeah. So he wakes up in his body in that era.
Kid body, adult body?
Kid body.
Okay.
But he has the adult memories of, wait a minute, some people I kind of knew got, like, kidnapped and murdered.
I get some good grades, man.
Yeah, he basically doesn't give a shit about school, and he remembers specifically this one girl who he didn't know, but he kind of remembered, like, like these kids, like a serial killer murdered these kids, and like the parents and adults tried to, like, hush it up so the kids wouldn't be traumatized. But he remembers that, like, right before the girl got murdered, he remembers seeing her alone in the park. So he makes it his mission to prevent the serial killings. And holy shit, does this show go off the rails in a really good way. Like, you think...
He is the serial killer. I figured it all out.
Watch a show. But it's
right.
one of those shows
I was right.
Pretty much every episode ends...
it.
So, Scott, here's how to make it a little bit crazier. In the English, the official name of the show is Erased, but the actual Japanese name of the show is the
main character is the serial killer?
Is the town where only I am missing. And that's the name of a short story that a character wrote when that character was a kid about how the world would have been better if that character didn't exist or didn't exist in the place they existed.
Because he wouldn't have killed that girl.
Watch your show. The show is not what you think.
Except I'm right.
No,
apparently.
you're not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Watch your show. This show is crazy good, though. And it's only 12 episodes long. Every episode ends on a cliffhanger. And every time you think, all right, I know what's going on, some Phoenix Wright crap happens. Then you're like, well, I was 100% wrong. And it's just really good. It's amazing. Once you watch a couple episodes, you're just going to watch the whole thing. Like, you can't stop yourself.
Yeah.
You watch anything else?
I did. I watched a lot of stuff. So I watched this. You remember there was that one about, like, the people on the bus that go to Lost Village?
Yeah, the one that we had a vague Bokurano-esque feeling about.
Yeah, that one. So I watched that. I've watched every episode so far. It's not the greatest thing ever, but it's pretty good. And it sort of has this balance where, like, they're not telling you enough of the mystery, but they do tell you enough of the mystery at the same time, where it's like, you're not telling enough, but you're telling enough that you're not jerking me around, right?
All right.
And basically, it's exactly, a bunch of characters get on a bus, and the main problem I have with the show is the characters, in that a lot of them are kind of zany, right? There's like guy who dresses up like a pirate and thinks he's a pirate. And this girl who's who's thinks she's an idol and basically is constantly yelling like, execute everybody. Oh my God, execute everybody. Kill them. Oh my God. Right?
Yeah, because while they're not similar except in our superficial look at one screenshot, in Bokurano, the characters are all different, but they were like, this kid's an otaku and this girl's like she plays the piano.
But they weren't extreme hyperbole stereotype caricatures. They were like
this girl murders people with pianos.
Right. They were like normal. They seemed like normal people in Bokurano that just were different, had different personalities.
Yep.
These are like extreme anime personalities, each different character, right? So there's like two gun nuts. The girl who's like meow meow.
Two gun nuts.
Yeah, there's a girl who's kind of like making meow cat noises, right?
We knew someone like that at RIT, so
yeah,
YMMV.
Yeah, but like she says meow at the end of every like sentence or whatever, right? There's all these weird characters in there, and like it's all that sort of, I think, sort of makes it a little chintzy, right? And less serious. But it's also like these people go to this village in the middle of nowhere, and they find it, and crazy shit happens there, and it's a mystery of like what's the deal with this village? Well, what's through the mysterious tunnel? Where did that guy disappear to? And it gives me sort of the same feel you get from like playing one of those video games, like 9 Doors, 9 Persons kind of thing.
Actually, Erased will give you a similar feeling because you're really, really trying to figure it out, and they give you a lot of clues.
And it also feels like a little bit of Paranoia Agent, though clearly not anywhere near as good. But at least the mystery part of like, because when you're thinking about like, what's the deal with this village, it almost feels like, what's the deal with Shonen Vet?
It's a shame you didn't watch Shinsekai Yori from the New World, because what I would ask you is the mystery is it more or less that kind of mystery?
It's definitely a supernatural mystery for sure. It's not something that's just normal.
But is it going to be like, what's the deal with the town? Or is it going to be like, what's the deal with the world in which this town exists?
It could be both. It's also like there's a lot focusing on like each character having a troubled past, and like their past is related to like.
Are they all on the bus because they have troubled pasts?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, all right. That's why they're all. Yeah,
and then there's obviously the one magical girl who doesn't have a troubled past, so she doesn't see monsters or whatever.
She had. Oh yeah, okay.
And she might be a ghost. It's just like there's all this stuff that like
she's Mr. Body.
There's all this stuff that like might be or might not be, and it's like they don't confirm anything. And the characters are all like detectives on their own. Like everyone's got a different theory. They're always talking about stuff and forming different parties and going to different locations with each other.
All right.
All that kind of stuff.
All right. Actually, Erased does a lot of that as well, and also is very good at like. Every character at all, it'll give you moments of like a bunch of evidence like, all right, something's up with that character, something possibly bad.
So yeah, those are all the shows that like I've been watching like every episode of. But I watched there's one show I'm gonna watch more episodes of. I just haven't, which is the Joker game.
Yeah, that was the one I was second most looking forward to from this season.
So it looked like a serious.
The Witch Show is the one I was the most looking forward to.
I watched a few episodes of The Witch Show, but it's just like the Witch Show is just like a nice, kind of show. So it's like I only watch it. It's like I'm just not. It's like there's no pressing need to like watch more episodes. It's not like the plot that really is pushing you to.
It's like Nichijou. Like when I watch Nichijou, it's like, well, that was amusing for 22 minutes.
It's just like if I need some I can always go back to The Witch Show, but there's no reason to like grind through it because there's not like some plot you're trying to.
So does Joker game look like it's going to go somewhere, or is it going to be Kaze no Yojimbo?
So no. So it has a similar aesthetic.
Or what, Gangsta? Was that the other one?
It has a similar feel, kind of, to Kaze no Yojimbo. That it's serious adult dudes. But anyway, there's some sort of super secret spy organization, and this guy is like the liaison to it of some kind. I'm not entirely clear what his position is, right? But and they're all these ultimate badasses who had the ultimate training. And he's hanging out, and there's a game of poker, and he says, all right, I'll play some poker with you. And in the end of the poker game, it's like, no. Actually, we weren't playing poker. We were playing the Joker game where we're all messing with you and right? And then immediately they start playing he gets played in the Joker game for real, where it's like all this total like espionage, deception, like he gets set up big time, and right? So basically I'll spoil the first episode, right? So there's something where they're like, this guy is totally a spy. we got to go to his house and investigate. And they're like, no, let's not do that. And he's like, no, we have orders to do it. You should do it. He's like, and the spy organization doesn't want to do it, but he forces them to do it, which is exactly what they wanted him to do. Because when he gets there, they search his house, and they didn't find anything. And he's like, what do you mean you didn't find anything? It's like, this place was searched actually recently. And he didn't know that. He got totally played in the Joker game. And he said that he would, commit seppuku if he didn't find anything. And it's like, ha, 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 ha. We totally tricked you into agreeing to kill yourself, and we knew nothing would be here. We played you because we're super badass
That sounds
spies.
like some Akagi nonsense, which can be good.
Yeah. And now he's all sweating like, oh shit, I'm going to have to kill myself now, even though this guy's totally a double agent for real. This guy's a spy for real. Oh, no. Is that kind of, right? So it's all about that kind of situations with these crazy badass spy dudes and these kind of scenarios. I don't know what episode 2 is going to be like, but that's what episode 1 was like.
All right. Well, I guess I'll catch up on some of these shows, and then we'll start doing like full reviews of them.
Yeah.
I think Joker Game's the one I'll watch immediately.
I hope they do Joker Game stuff like that every episode, right? Where it's like, oh, someone got played every episode or shit.
Joker Game just sounds the most different from things I have seen.
It's way different from like all animes I've seen. Yeah.
Or at least stuff that I've seen recently. Because there are shows that do that kind of thing. I just haven't watched them, or at least not
there's not a
recently.
lot of things I can compare Joker Game to that I've seen. It's almost like one of those awesome mangas you see that never gets translated. Actually got made into an anime.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
This has been Geek Nights with Rym and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geek Nights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geek Nights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.
The Patreon patrons for this episode of Geek Nights in the order of the amount of money they give us on a continuing basis are Alan Joyce, Rebecca Dunn, Nicholas Brando, Heidi McNichol, Amanda Duchette, James David White, Christian, I had great plans for this bit, but now I'm doubting it, Coons, MyStady.com, Sean Hayworth, William Eisenrose, Jeremy Miner, Spartacus, Matthew Smith, Kajar Tavishan, Joe Shiro, Joestar, Tyler Eller, Don Schleich, Sean Yeager, Clinton Welton, Ren from New Zealand, Robert Lee, Ryan Perrin, Drew Openlander, Ray Lavelle, Brian Cedroni, Rochelle Montanona, Finn Eric Silverrod, and the Infinite Sadness, Kinetic Man, Aaron Cerise, Chris Midkiff, Chris Knox, Flame Darkfire, Sam Cordry, Daniel Redmond, Chris the Dodd, Sean Klein, Chris Reimer, and Thomas Hahn. We just recorded the April Q&A, and we're going to record the May Q&A almost immediately afterward. So that'll be up on the Patreon as soon as I can get, and then we'll be back on our regular schedule for the foreseeable future. The next interruption we'll have will be a very short one for Kineticon. Give me another week or two. You should start getting emails. Many of you who submitted panels to Kineticon, if you're actually, doing it or whatever. But if you sent a panel in and you're one of the people who listens to Geek Nights and you think that it's one that I should have taken and I didn't for whatever reason, email me and remind me, because I have very few slots and I'm extremely limited in what I can fit, but I will definitely take a look at something that someone messaged me about based on listening to what you just listened to. But anyway, I got nothing special. Geek Nights is resumed. Everything's good. I'm almost done with the Wheel of Time, and now I leave you with something weird.
Hip-hop sound, the rhythm to go. We got the beat that really flows. Hip-hop sound, a techno groove. Hard house to make your body move, go. Move, go. Move, go.
Similar style, even though they're completely different games. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of that. I guess if I had any more opening bits or anecdotes. Actually,
It's warm today.
something funny happened. A biking story today involving a fixie.
Uh-oh.
But it's a new one. This is something that's never happened to me before.
Okay.
So I'm biking, and I passed this really slow guy in a fixie, and he's with his friend who's on a fixie and also really slow. And then I
Sure,
stopped.
it was
at a
fixies and at one speeds.
They were one of them at least was an actual fixie because I saw him coasting, sticking his legs up. The pedals were still going.
Yep. Okay.
I didn't confirm the other guy. They had brakes, so I'll give him that. But
Just the one front brake.
Maybe. I mean, I didn't inspect their bikes that closely. I'm not like that obsessed. But so I'm biking, and I stop at the red light, and they like shoal and like get in the way of traffic and run the red light and kind of puff past me, and then I pass them every time the light turns green, and eventually, like I get to a red light, and there's a bunch of traffic. So even when they catch up to me, they can't just go through the light. They just stand there, and the one guy pulls up next to me and is just like staring at my bike. Like really staring at it, like not even trying to hide the fact, like looking at it so intently. And he keeps doing it for like, 20 seconds or so. So finally I just turn to him. I'm like, can I help you? What's up? And he's like, where's the battery? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, how are you going so fast? And I got to use the line that I've always wanted to be able to use on one of these kinds of people. But, I'm just biking. I'm not going to stop and yell a retort at someone. Just keep going. So I turn to him. I'm like, I have gears. That's how I go fast. If you had gears, you could go fast. And he's like, there's no way. And then the light turned green. I never saw him again. But that was... The fact that he's just standing there, like, staring at my bike. Like, it's one of those, like, when a stranger does something a little bit weird, and in New York, your sense goes off of, like, wait a minute, that one's not acting like the rest of the herd. Warning, warning.
I mean, even if you only had one, it's like, bikes are leg powered. It's like he couldn't imagine that there would be someone with better legs than him. It's like, let me introduce you to professional cyclists.
So, but the thing is, even a professional cyclist.
That's like I'm playing basketball against Michael Jordan. I'm like, how did you score so many points? Where's your
battery?
Performance enhancing drugs? Where are your drugs? How did you do it? There's no other way you could have done it.
But I think it's not the high speed, it's the acceleration. Because remember, even a professional cyclist, if you're sitting at a dead stop on an uphill slope, that's a not insignificant slope, and someone who is way less athletic than you is starting at the exact same spot, but they have a real bike with gears, they will accelerate way faster than you. You're going to pass them eventually because you have legs the size of my torso, but they're going to accelerate faster than you. There is no way around that unless you snap your chain.
Sure.
It was just an interesting moment because he was like so fixated on it. Oh, fixie. All right, there we go. That wasn't intentional.
All right.
So, yeah. That's what happened to me today. Got any news related to anime or comics or manga?
I do have news. So, people always be complaining about PAX and the way it sells tickets, and Robert Koo did that interview where he pretty much gave the lowdown, which is the exact same lowdown we always gave.
Yep. It's like, kids, if you've been around the block, like, I know you going to conventions.
This is how it do.
It's like, never tried to buy tickets to a hockey game. Never tried to get like tickets to a popular concert. That shit is way harder than even these conventions you guys are so upset about.
Right. Anyway, so New York Comic Con, many conventions have tried different solutions, lotteries and things, and they all had their problems. New York Comic Con is trying something new this year, and interestingly enough, it has some positive and some negative aspects.
It's actually not. It's not the worst idea.
It's not just awful. But I think overall it's still negative.
I will admit I bristled at it just instinctively before I actually tried to figure it out.
I think it's still worth a bristle, but it's not 100% bad. It's like 50% bad.
I bristle at almost anything, even like anything
so
like
anyway,
this.
here's what they're doing. They're doing fan verification. Here's how this works. First, you got to go to their website and make a profile. Why do you do this? So that they can collect all your personal information.
Hooray!
Also, I just learned that that Reed. Did you know who owns Reed?
I actually don't.
Reed is owned by an evil company.
Which one?
Elsevier.
Oh! I know all about them.
Yeah, the people who...
It's Wednesday, June 1st, 2016. I'm Rym.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, the anime we've been watching, because it's anime day.
Let's do this.
Problem is, I could have watched a lot more anime, but one, I really got into the new Fargo TV show. A little late to the game there. It was really good. And two, I watched a bunch of other anime, but more importantly, three, I've been playing a lot of Overwatch. It's actually pretty good. Like, remember when Team Fortress 2 came out and we were like, yeah, and then we played it, and that night we were like, eh.
It was more like, I played it for a few weeks.
I played it, but that night I was like, oh, this isn't what I wanted. Okay, whatever. And I played it for a few weeks and I just stopped. Overwatch is only superficially similar to it. I'm not going to review it now because it's Wednesday day, but it is way closer to Quake 2 Weapons Factory or Team Fortress than Team Fortress 2 ever got, which is interesting that this is the game that made it. But it's also got it's like every MOBA has the same set of characters and the same aesthetic now. I think pretty much every esport game that isn't Video Ball or Rocket League is going to look like this down the road. It's kind of weird. Like, people still confuse this game with Battleborn or that other game that doesn't look good. That's actually a MOBA, I guess.
I don't know.
Anyway, people seem to be confusing the two, like non-gamers, because they have
refuse to open up their medical and scientific journals for freeness, right?
I've had recruiters from them. I figured out it was
the people
from them.
who you could say murdered Aaron Schwartz indirectly.
I know all about that company.
All right. So anyway, they like to collect. They own LexisNexis and whatnot. They own. They want to collect your information and put it in a database. So that's the worst part of this. So anyone who wants a New York Comic Con ticket has to make a profile on their website so they can collect your personal information for their business purposes, right? So then what they do is they're going to let you know if you have a profile that's been verified. They're going to let you know when tickets are going to go on sale, which is cool. All right, because now no scalpers are going to have profiles, right? So it's no big deal. Then all the ticket types will go on sale at the same time. Also good.
Yeah.
They're not going to sell VIP tickets anymore. Also good.
That's great.
Great. Okay.
VIP tickets were one of the main problems I had with the New York Comic Con.
Right. They're only going to sell tickets on their website and not like in comic book stores like they used to, which good and bad-ish, maybe. Whatever. It was kind of nice to be able to go to a comic store and get a ticket.
Well, yeah, except that didn't work anymore because all that meant was you either stand in line outside of a comic book store that has like 10 tickets.
The thing is, that's the thing is the comic book stores had a lot more than 10 tickets, like Midtown, and there were so many of them in the city that got tickets that you could actually pretty easily get them there, and people didn't know about this a lot.
Well, that was it.
You could if you like needed a ticket late. It's like I remember in past years, comic book stores in the city were like the only places that still had them, and people just didn't know to go there and get them.